I want to start, of course, by thanking the women who have launched this campaign and worked tirelessly to bring it to this point. I want to thank the National Women's Council for their support, and I want to thank Sinn Féin for bringing the motion to the floor tonight. I had a motion under the previous regime which was circulated and signed by over 77 deputies. Some of them I'll return to towards the end of this, but it was kicked around the houses between the Minister for Justice, the Minister for Social Protection, the Minister for Finance, and eventually it ended up in a limbo. So now we come here to the formation of a government, and last week it was being kicked around till they made the statement last night that they were extending parents' leave by a number of weeks, and to great disappointment to the women out there and great shock, they find themselves back again at square one. And having listened to the Minister's speech and read through it carefully, there's a number of things I want to pick up on. First of all, she says it's too complex to change this legislation. I just want to ask her, although she's not here, maybe she'll look back on this afterwards, has she looked at the present Financial Provisions Bill, 142 pages of extremely complex and technical legislation to ensure that we have business as usual? We have passed legislation during this emergency that covered evictions, redundancies, mortgages, all sorts of complex areas of society. But this is about women and babies. And I remember acutely how we sat in this chamber discussing the Repeal the 8th campaign and trying to reach a position of consensus with the Citizens Committee, and then having long, arduous, hours-long arguments about women's rights to choose. And that choice is about being able to have a child as much as choosing not to have a child. And here are women who've had children, and their choices are being utterly minimised by the counter-motion presented to us tonight. I'm not going to go through the sad cases of the individuals who've written to me and the many sort of torturous issues that women have had to face during COVID with small babies. But the Minister has said here it's not about money. I got a figure from Regina Doherty of 130+ million to cover all the women who would be entitled to an extension of 3 months of maternity leave if we got that motion passed. We then have a figure from Micheál Martin of 75 million. If it's not about money, then what is it about, Minister? It is about women and babies. Tomorrow and today we were discussing more financial legislation to commit ourselves to 600 million plus to European Union funds that we've no accountability for. We don't know what it's going to do or where it's going to go. Whatever millions would be spent on extending maternity leave, we know exactly what it would do. It would improve the quality and life for women and babies, thousands of them in this country, and therefore it would improve society as a whole. So I'm extremely worried, like other deputies, that this is a real setback for women's rights in this country, rights that we fought very long and hard to win. We do have women who are losing their jobs, who will fail to get promotion, who will be set back in their careers because they cannot find anybody to mind their children. Creche places are just not available, and grandparents, who usually act as a substitute, cannot do this job. So I think the fact that women are having to resign from jobs and having to forgo promotion is a kick in the face to women's rights, and it's utterly shameful that this new government would do something like that. And I just want to go through today's COVID figures, because I think it's significant that we've had the largest number of new cases in a month. There's been 32 new cases today and 10 people in intensive care. We've no certainty that this pandemic is gone away. In fact, we are probably looking at a spike in it. What do we then say to women who are being forced back to work with small babies at home? I think the government has to do the right thing and grant this extension to maternity leave. My last words are to the Green Party, because 8 of them signed the previous motion that we had hoped to present to the House. 8 of them made statements to the women like it's of utmost importance that mothers of new babies have adequate childcare options available to them. Nasa Hurricane said that this is part of Green policy anyway, to extend maternity leave, and she really wanted to fully support it. What are those deputies going to do on Thursday when it comes to a vote? Are they going to vote against the Sinn Féin motion here tonight and support this terrible piece of counter motion that has been put by the Minister? What about all of you deputies in Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael who enthusiastically signed the petition? You have to answer to your constituents if you vote against this motion on Thursday.